welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Hello and welcome back to the Brew Crew Review, our second podcast of the week here in the Brewers opening week of the season here in 2019. Lots of optimism for Brewer fans, and joined here on the set today by the great man himself, Mr. Scott Bartell. Scott, how are you today?
Doing great. Hope everybody's ready to talk some Brewers baseball.
All right, and we are also joined by two special guests on our program because we don't actually know where Craig and Chad are currently located, unless they called you, Scott. But we have got author Chris Zantow. Chris, how are you today?
Doing great.
Outstanding. And yeah, glad you could join us, unlike a couple of our co-hosts. And also back from a long hiatus, 2007, I believe was his last show with the Brew Crew Review, is Joe Trovato. Joe, how are you today?
I am doing great. It is fantastic to be back. And I'm doing even better because I just listened to the Cubs lose on a pass ball to end the game in Texas, and that is fantastic news.
That is a dynamite intro, and for a guy who missed opening day, it's one step back towards redemption amongst your fellow Brewer fans. So thanks for your service, but boy, yeah, you missed a great opening day.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, you should be. All right. Well, we're back for the trivia component, our Around the Horn Rapid 9 segment here in the Brew Crew Review podcast. And the author of the questions this week was not the author, nor was it the journalists that are currently on our set, but it was actually Scott. Scott, how'd you do on your questions today? Did you and the interns come up with some good ones?
The interns were of zero help at all. And in fact, all I asked for them, I just told them, hey, as long as you give me a beer by the time we actually start doing this podcast, that's really all I want from you at this point, and I'll take it from here. And I'm sitting here without a – oh, hang on. Yep, they're running it over. All right, here we go. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. And you're fired. That's great.
You know, what's funny is that not only are you a tough taskmaster, but this is our second take at this, and I heard you crack one open not more than 5 minutes ago. But neither here nor there.
Vince, that's fourth wall stuff. You can't do that.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Well, without further ado, Scott, why don't you take us into the first inning of your brilliant, I'm sure, trivia question.
All right. Okay, so this is a rapid 9. There are no wrong answers unless, I guess, we disagree for whatever reason. But we're just going to, go. We can't say around the horn, but we're just going to go through it. Vince, I'll actually have you lead off.
All right.
Then I'll have that followed by Joe and Chris, and then I'll bat cleanup. How's that sound?
That's fine. We got a full infield here today. Let's do it.
Okay, so we'll go in that order, and here we go for question number 1. Do you prefer your Milwaukee Brewers in the AL or the NL?
Boy, that's a great question. I did see that either you or the interns put that out on social media earlier today, so I was thinking about this a little bit. I prefer the American League, and it's not that I don't like the National League. It's just because it's what I grew up with. You know, if you're of a certain age demographic, you probably were upset when the Brewers played in the AL when they first joined Major League Baseball because you were a Braves fan. But for those of us that are of a certain age and saw the Brewers playing teams like the Orioles and the Yankees and the Indians and other teams every year at Miller Park or at County Stadium and got used to that, I think that you develop an affinity for what you had as a youth. So my pick is the American League for that reason.
All right, good pick. Joe?
You know, yeah, I have to agree. I would go with the American League. In fact, Vince and I have had a number of conversations about this very topic over the years, and I grew up same way, at least in my early baseball fandom, loving Cal Ripken Jr. and Ken Griffey Jr. and watching the Orioles and Mariners come into town, and then certainly some of those early great Yankee teams of that late '90s dynasty. And I too am going to stick with the American League, though I really do love the Brewers Cubs rivalry that has developed in the NL Central, and at times the Brewers Cardinals rivalry has been very entertaining as well. And I think that the Chicago rivalry is stronger right now with the Cubs than it was with the White Sox. But I guess from pure nostalgia purposes, I stick with the American League as well.
All right, Chris.
Well, let's go 3 for 3. I'm also going with the American League. I have to toss it back to the AL East. And back when the Brewers, late 70s, early 80s, that was an incredible division. You looked at Baltimore, Boston, New York, and even the lesser teams like Detroit, they started to come around later on, and it was a really tough division. And again, I have to echo the nostalgia of it, and some of those rivalries were just intense and insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, normally with a lot of those shows, they just have like, one person be the detractor from everybody else, but we don't really do that. So I'm just going to go with the AL as well. So yeah, we're all going to be in unison with that. I personally, I actually just think that I love the NL style of baseball, but I think maybe the old AL Central, Indians, Royals, Twins, White Sox, and Brewers, I think that was a little bit easier to compete in. And I absolutely loved the Brewers-Twins rivalry. I love Twins fans, cannot stand Cubs fans. So that may have more to do with me. And then the rivalry between us and the White Sox back in like the Phil Garner era was also a pleasure for me as well. But all right, let's go to inning number 2. What is the better opening weekend giveaway, the magnetic schedule or the Jesus Aguilar bobblehead?
Oh, man. So I did go to the game today. I did get an Aguilar bobblehead. I'm going to go with the schedule, though, guys. I think that the schedule is awesome because it's something that you actually use every day throughout the course of that upcoming season. And I'll just go with the schedule. I think it's practical.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, it's weird that Vince and I are agreeing on things right now, but I think that the magnetic schedule is, as like Vince said, it's something that I use every day. It graces my kitchen refrigerator, and I would say I look at it almost every day between now and the end of September. So it becomes ironically a big part of my life, and not that I don't love the bobbleheads, but that schedule is one of my favorite things.
All right, Chris.
Even though I'm a bobblehead collector, I'm going to go with the schedule, and I'm going with the pure practicality of it. And I also hang it prominently on my fridge, reference it and everything. And I know I can do that on the internet and on my phone and whatever, but it's just nice to have. And half of the bobblehead games I don't make it to anyway, so they wind up being gifts from my wife and my mother on my birthday, or we eBay them or whatever. So yeah, I have to go with the schedule.
All right. Well, this segment sucks. It's gone horribly wrong. I'm also going with the schedule. I'm just trying to come up with a different reason at this point of why I think it's the schedule. I mean, to me, the schedule is it's a symbol of opening day is here, and like you said, you get to look at it, for all year. But it's just, it's a symbol that this is it. Like, we have baseball again after this long wait, and I really appreciate that. I like bobbleheads. The nostalgia factor isn't quite where it once was because the bobblehead is kind of going like a little bit like the way of the baseball card. Like, there's too much going on now at this point. So I wish they'd scale it back actually a little bit. 6 bobbleheads per team is a little crazy, but still fun. Still fun. Just so you guys know.
Yeah, and White. Oh, go ahead, Scotty. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the fans actually said 85% say that they'd rather the Brewers be in the National League, and 67% would rather have the Aguilar bobblehead. So we disagree with them.
Well, let's just point out that the Twitter demographic may be steering younger, so they don't necessarily know that the Brewers played in the American League, and with the schedule thing, I don't know. Who knows? But whatever. Maybe they don't have wives or girlfriends yet who get mad about a bunch of stuff cluttering up the house that's baseball related.
We love our Twitter fans. I just want to say this man does not represent us. And with that, quick segue, awkward segue to inning number 3. Which Cardinal surprised you most with a great series against the Brewers?
Well, it's not Paul Goldschmidt because everyone expected him to do pretty well. Actually, Michael Wacha pitched a little bit better today than I thought he was due to pitch like. So I'll say him, although Colton Wong also is a candidate. Yeah, let's go with Colton Wong.
All right, Joe. Sorry, you guys could just jump in if you know that we know the batting order.
Okay.
You have to wait for me, but otherwise I'll cue you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Colton Wong. His performance on opening day is what really surprised me. I guess he wasn't really on my radar screen heading into the series as a major power threat, and then he cracks 2 homers on opening day, and that was certainly unexpected for me. So Colton Wong is my nominee.
All right, Chris.
Well, I'm gonna have to say Yadier Molina. Just kidding. I'm gonna go with Wacha because I think that every time the Brewers play against him, they're due to tee off against the guy, and they certainly didn't do that today. He kept them off balance and pitched pretty well. So yeah, definitely Wacha as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think he has something like a 6-0 record against us, but luckily he did not get the win today or back on Sunday, I guess. But I'm actually going to go with Wong only because as a rookie, I drafted him on my fantasy team, and he was pretty decent. And then last year, he really kind of fell off a cliff and never really got his footing. And so the Cardinals, I guess, did a pretty good job, at least, based on all of 4 games in that small sample size, of not selling low on him and giving him the opportunity. And he definitely had a great series. But let's go on to inning number 4.
Oh, wait, hey, Scott, I was just going to say maybe Andrew Miller should be a candidate because he actually gave up a home run to the Brewers in our loss a couple nights ago. That was a bit unexpected.
Yeah, and he can't apparently get lefties out. So, I mean, you could have a bad surprise. Absolutely. Yeah, that would work. I mean, it's just who surprised you. So,
Yeah.
All right, good honorable mention then. Okay, inning number 4. If you could only have one pitcher work the 9th inning for the Brewers for the rest of the year, and you cannot pick Hader or a starter currently in the rotation, who on earth would you pick?
So one guy to close is currently not Josh Hader. I would go with Brandon. Did you say not in the starting rotation either?
Yeah. No, I made it really difficult.
Yeah, you did. So no Woodruff. Okay. I guess I'm gonna. Boy, that's a really, really tough question. Craig Kimbrell. Can we say him?
No.
Okay. I'll go Alex Wilson, I suppose, because we don't really know what he's got yet. I don't think you can pick Claudio because he's more of a lefty specialist. We'll go Wilson.
All right, Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Having Jeffress on the shelf right now is tough. I would like to go with him, but for the sake of discussion, I guess I'll try to throw somebody else out there. And I will feel like I'm just for the sake of being different. I'm just going to throw a complete curveball out there and say Junior Guerra.
No, it's a good pick. It's a good pick.
A bad pick. Yeah, it's not a bad pick.
All right, Chris, what do you say?
I'm gonna go along with Vince and go with Wilson.
All right. I'm actually gonna go with Taylor Williams. I think he has the stuff to be a closer. I don't think he's ready yet, but I think that over the course of the season, I think that he can get there relatively quickly. And I guess the whole point of this question was just to kind of show, like, after Hader, like, our bullpen's in a little bit of trouble with the injuries. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but yeah, I struggled to have an answer for that. Somebody asked me that earlier, and I thought it'd probably be a good rapid 9 question.
Yeah, good one.
All right, let's see here. All right, moving on to inning number 5. This is another kind of caveat one. Which AL Central rivalry do you miss the most? And by AL Central, I mean Indians, Twins, Royals, or White Sox.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to go with the Indians. And the reason I say that is probably, again, the era that I grew up in. But those 90s teams, maybe it wasn't much of a rivalry, but the Indians were really good during those years. And I really enjoyed seeing them come to Milwaukee. You guys probably remember the Albert Bell, Fernando Vina moment at second base. There was definitely some tension between the teams. And I also think that the cities are fairly similar when you're looking at Milwaukee and Cleveland. You've got two kind of Rust Belt, industrial, awesome cities on Great Lakes that neither team has seen a world championship within the past, 60 years. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Indians.
I would say that I think the Indians are a great pick, actually, for a lot of the reasons Vince mentioned. And also, of course, we have the common Major League heritage, as in the movie Major League. But I'm going to go with the Twins, actually. The Twins, as someone alluded to earlier, I think I enjoy that rivalry with the fans. I think it's the one place where Brewer fans really travel well, like when they really make their presence known up in Minneapolis, and frankly, Twins fans tend to travel pretty well to Milwaukee too. So, but it's not the same kind of. There's not like the hatred rivalry so much as there is with the Chicago team. It seems where it gets a little rowdy. It's almost more like our brothers from Minnesota versus the hated Chicago, and so it's a little more of an amicable rivalry. But I just really enjoy those games, and because I think Minnesota is just culturally really aligned a lot closer with Wisconsin than Illinois is.
Yeah, good pick, Chris.
I'm going to go with the White Sox. I actually noticed that tweet earlier and answered White Sox. The era that I grew up in, when you got outside of the AL East, the White Sox, that was like a huge rivalry at the time, and it just seemed to be intense. It was a kind of hatred rivalry, as Joe mentioned, but sometimes there were some good things that came out of it. I was at a game with my dad, and a White Sox fan spilled a beer on him as he was going down the aisle, and the guy actually was nice and bought my dad a beer, which my dad didn't complain at all. But it was always interesting, those games in the 80s and late 70s.
Yeah, I think these are all good picks. And when I look at this division, I think Indians respect, Twins respect, Royals respect, White Sox get bent. Like, I could not stand the White Sox team. I just think of like Scrap Iron Phil, like getting in brawls and all that kind of fun stuff and hijinks that would happen with the White Sox. And the White Sox don't travel, so I don't have to deal – well, their fans don't travel, so I don't have to deal with sitting next to them either typically, so that works out pretty well too. All right, now I got a couple beer-related questions. Inning number 6. This is for out-of-towner. So if you're visiting Miller Park or if you're just in the Milwaukee area, what's your favorite Wisconsin beer that you have to have them try?
All right, so I'm going to have a weird pick, and I know that it's probably not going to be a common one, but there's one beer at Miller Park, which much to my regret, I did not actually have when I was back home here this weekend, but Barrelman Ale is only sold at the stadium or within, I think, a mile of Miller Park, and I am a big fan of that beer, and Joe can attest that on many opening days we will enjoy a Barrelman at the stadium after coming in from the parking lot. So I think that the Barrelman Ale would be my one weird, unique recommendation.
I figured Vince was going to pick that one because I know he makes it a tradition to get that when he's at Miller Park. I'm going to go with the Lakefront Brewery, and I say River West Stein is probably my favorite beer, followed closely by their Fixed Gear as well. I think it's the Fixed Gear Red Ale, if I'm remembering it correctly. But those two beers are Milwaukee musts.
Awesome. All right, Chris?
Well, it's not a Milwaukee beer, but New Glarus Spotted Cow. I grew up probably about 8 miles from that brewery. The brewery wasn't there when I grew up, but it's big time around the Madison area, and I see it's making its way to other places like Miller Park.
Yeah, and on that note, Chris, really quick, I'll tell you that now living out of town, that people that are outside of Wisconsin have heard of it, and you can't buy it like on the East Coast anywhere. So people have even requested that I bring some back for them from Wisconsin.
Yeah, you guys all had really great answers. Actually, River West Stein was like one of my first sort of craft beers that I really got into, and it's phenomenal. And New Glarus has not done much wrong. Spotted Cow would actually that was indeed my pick. But I'll also give an honorable mention to a beer that they don't do anymore, which I think is called Road Slush, which I believe was I think it was an oatmeal stout. But that got me through a couple winters, so that's a great beer as well. Inning number 7.
Scotty, I thought you preferred the Dobb at that liquor store in West Dallas, the Dobb beer that they sold for like $4 a case.
Well, yeah, $4 for 24 bottles. I mean, how could I not do this? And it was right next door to the studio. I'd be like,
I know.
Get a couple cases of Dobb, absolutely.
Delaware, yeah.
Stuff is phenomenal. All right, inning number 7 here. A little bit of a change. What beer do you use to cook brats in? I assume that probably everyone has made beer brats at some point in their life, if they've ever even been in Wisconsin more than 5 minutes. So I'd like to hear what beer you use.
So I think for that one, our answers may be similar, maybe not, but I prefer a cheap beer or maybe a more mainstream beer for rot cooking. Number one, you don't want to waste it. Number two, it tastes just as good when you boil it. So I probably would do a Miller Lite or a PBR.
I go with the High Life or a Miller Lite typically for boiling brats. For honestly the same reasons, and for whatever reason it's a nostalgia thing. I think growing up that was typically what our father would put on or use when he was cooking his brats as well.
Awesome.
I also have a beer from my dad's past. He was a big Hams drinker. He was a cheap beer guy, and so I generally use Hams for beer brats, and then as maybe a second choice, Milwaukee's Best.
There you go. Yeah, we can relate to that, Chris.
That's a good pick, actually.
All of those picks are absolutely phenomenal. In order, High Life is my kind of go-to, and then after that, I would go with Milwaukee's Best, and then after that, if I have to get really obscure, there was a beer that I used to drink in my younger days that was Lacrosse Lager. I'm pretty sure you can buy that for it was like $8 for a 24-pack. So
I had a college roommate who was from La Crosse, and he always was bringing Lacrosse Lager into our apartment.
Awesome. All right, we are almost done here. Inning number 8. All right, this is a weird one. If you could pick one Cardinal, just pluck them from their starting rotation, drop them on the Brewers, who would you steal?
Bob Gibson.
Well, okay. That's a phenomenal pick. Let me say that your choices are Mikolas, Flaherty, Hudson, Waka, and Wainwright are their current starting 5.
Yeah. So Wainwright's pretty old at this point, although I know he's a favorite of our anonymous source, Tom Carter, Scott. So maybe that would be a good pick according to our anonymous source. But I guess I'd go Waka if he's recovered from his injury.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Michael Wacha as well. I think he would actually probably complement the Brewers staff pretty well, and that's who I'd pick.
I'd say even though about a year ago, before Mikolas went to the Cardinals, I kind of thought maybe the Brewers should grab the guy. I'm also going to go with Michael Wacha.
All right, great picks. I would actually, because I'm in win now mode, I would go with Mikolas. I also drafted him in fantasy and got him really late for some really good value. But if we're looking for the long term, I'd go with Flaherty just because he's young and has a lot of good potential. But let's see here. Let's move it along.
Hey, Scotty, did Tom make a new pick or did he choose Wainwright? Tom Carter, anonymous source.
I think Tom said Wacha because he was just like, well, yeah, he's like all the guy does is win at Miller Park, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
he also asked that if you mention him as an anonymous source. Like here, it's fine because it's just in passing. But like maybe just go with Tom C or T Carter.
Okay.
But not both.
Okay. So not Tom Carter, just Tom C or T Carter. Okay, got it.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it. And then, all right, inning number 9 here. And this is only because let's think back to that amazing 3 out of 4 series win against the Cardinals. What's better, a walk-off hit or a game-saving home run, Rob?
Oh, man. Because we were playing at home, I'm going to go with the game-winning hit. But, boy, they were both pretty awesome and had the pleasure of being there for both of those experiences in the last few days. That was awesome. But we'll go with the game-winning hit. I like the Gatorade bath, all that stuff. That was cool today.
Yeah, I got to go with the walk-off as well because the game-winning or the game-winning catch at the wall is a near miss if you really think about it. That could easily end in disaster.
Yeah.
Whereas the walk-off hit is very clear-cut and decisive.
All right.
I'm also going to go with the walk-off. That was just tremendously exciting. The run into the outfield and the team, and not that didn't happen with the catch either, but it was that whole vibe and just the build up to it. The catch that just happens really quickly and it's on one play. But, this inning, if you go back through it, Ben Gamble getting on, and then Keane, and you've got the runners on base and no one out, and it's like you pretty much are forced to face down the middle of the lineup at that point. So that I thought was huge, and just the way it all played out.
Hey, Chris, and really quick, you and I were both at the game today. We were talking about this on the first show before you hopped on. I don't think many people left early today. It seemed like everybody was really into the game this afternoon. Do you have that sense as well?
I did too, because I generally look for that, and when they play I like to move it late in the game. A lot of times I would joke, in seasons past, that it was like I like to move it toward the exit, and that was generally when people were getting up and getting out of there because they're down by 3 runs, they'll never, or 2 runs or 4 runs, they'll never come back. And I didn't get that sense today.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Yeah, I would say that is an absolutely phenomenal walk-off hit, especially because there were a lot of things going on with this walk-off. I mean, first, you got a guy who's supposed to be untouchable at that's throwing 101 miles an hour, and he's getting tagged, which is great. But the center fielder diving and then not quite being able to come up with it to cut it off, that might hold Kane at third. Then there's sort of, like, will he or won't he score, and he makes it in sliding, and then the celebration. There's a lot going on. Having said that, I think the home run Rob is always great because it has that risk-reward kind of factor going on, like the, oh, no. And then you're like, yes, now we can all celebrate. So that's really cool, too. But let's see here.
Scotty, to your point, remember early on last season when the Brewers tagged Greg Holland, in one of those early games, the Cardinals closer in 2018, and it was pretty awesome because it really did set the momentum. And remember, at that time, he was considered to be pretty untouchable. So I'm hoping that the same holds true for the Cardinals here in 2019 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then actually I have, I don't know if you guys just heard my dog bark in the background. I figure I may as well do a little bonus baseball here. We recently acquired a puppy, and we decided to name it Bailey. She's a wonderful dog, but we definitely threw out some brewer names also to see what we could potentially name her. I was wondering, what is the best brewer name for a dog?
Well, guys, I got to defend my own dog, who at least two of you guys have met. My dog's name is Banjo, his first name, but I acquired him during the playoffs in 2011, and his middle name is Brawny, so it's Banjo Brawny is his name, like on his veterinarian forms and everything.
Oh, nice.
I've got to go with Hank. I think Hank is a great name for a dog, but I am not referencing Hank the ballpark pup. In fact, I'm a staunch adversary of Hank. I'm not a fan of Hank the ballpark pup. However, I'm a huge fan of Hank Aaron, and I think Hank is a really good dog name, so I would go with Hank.
Awesome.
My wife and I have two bunnies, and they are female, so that doesn't work. Emma and Desi, so those aren't good brewer names, but I will go with Yelly.
Ooh, nice one, Chris. I like that. It's a good pet name.
I think that's a really good pick.
Great pick. All of these guys, what's really good is like all of them are 2 syllables or less, so that makes it a lot easier to make it a great dog name for sure. I actually thought, now our dog is a girl dog, so Robin got some consideration just because Robin can be a girl's name. And we actually, the closest that we got was for a brewer name was Molly for Paul Molitor. We thought that might.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't quite make the cut, but that would be our pick.
Scott, let's be realistic. How close were you to being able to convince your girlfriend to name the dog after a brewer?
Closer. Well, not as close as I thought. I guess would be the answer. Our dog actually has. Well, she's all white, but she has black and gold ears, and so we thought Flurry would be great because I live out in Vegas, and the Vegas Golden Knights have Flurry as their goalie, so we thought that might be a good one too. But we were looking at all kinds of great names, and so it was a lot of fun to come up with it. I think back and forth we probably vetoed like 50 names apiece. So, but that's all I got. I hope it was a lot of fun for you guys. Definitely some great answers there.
Yeah, well, thanks for your interns putting that together for us, Scott. Good job today on the Rapid 9. We would like to invite our listeners to continue to give us a follow on Twitter at Brew Crew Review 1, especially our recent follower, our colleague Tom Hondercourt. You can join him as being one of our Twitter fans. Also, make sure to continue to send us your email questions, brewcrewreviewpodcast with an S at gmail.com. Scott, do we have anything in the inbox here today for fan questions?
The interns, what? Okay, well, I just looked over to the interns and they just shrugged their shoulders. So if they weren't fired before, they're fired now. So I don't know. If you want an intern for us, I don't know, tweet at us or something because we're going to be looking for some.
Well, okay. Sounds good. I guess we'll get to any email questions from folks next week on our next podcast going forward. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to our 2 special guests here on the program today, Chris Zantow, author, and Chris, we've put it out on our social media and plugged it before, but do you really want to quickly repeat the name of your upcoming book? And I know you don't have an exact release date, but any other info about your book?
So it's Building the Brewers Bud Selig and the Return of Major League Baseball to Milwaukee by McFarland and Company, and I don't have a date yet. I'm still also waiting on a cover mock-up, but I should be getting that soon. If you follow me on Twitter, I did put out the names of the chapters today, and I'm going to have a link out tomorrow to the synopsis of each chapter. Okay.
And our
My Twitter handle is @JoeyTrov for those who want to follow me.
I was going to say thanks again to Joe Trovato for joining us today. Back from the dead, 2007, last chiming in with the Brew Review, but happy that you could join us today, Joe.
Chris is very
and
sorry, I just walked all over you, Joe. I didn't mean to do that.
It's okay. I look forward to joining you guys again 11 years from now, 12 years from now.
And Scott, feel free to interrupt Joe whenever you'd like because he missed opening day. So no problem whatsoever.
Well, Joe, I hope you make an occurrence or an appearance on the show again in hopefully less than 12 years. And Chris can be at @Zantow_Chris. That's
what I thought, but I didn't want to.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot. For those of our listeners who are curious, we don't do much in terms of a pre-production meeting, so we do tend to ad lib a little bit here on the set. So, in any event,
it's like knowing your own. It's like knowing your own phone number.
Yeah,
you know.
That's right. Actually.
Thanks, guys.
Well,
Go Brewers.
Thanks, everybody. Go Brewers. Hopefully another successful week. Yep. Stay classy.
Go Brewers.